Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of That Early Childhood Nerd. I'm Heather Bernt-Santy. My cheeks are already a little tired from laughing and smiling in the before we hit record. I think this is going to be a good conversation. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Josh Thompson. Hi,
Hi.
and Dr. Z, Zlata Stankovic
You got it.
Ramirez.
You got it. Hi.
Stankovic-Ramirez. Sorry.
Got it.
I wrote it down and then I forgot to look at it. It just went by memory. So you two are here to talk about developmental cascades, which is such an interesting thing to think about. I'm really looking forward to this, but I'd like to start by asking each of you to just talk about yourselves a little bit, and then I'll read a starting quote and we'll go. So, Dr.
Oh,
Z, do you want to go first?
Yes, I'll go. Hi, everyone. We're so excited to be here and share some of our work with y'all. My name is Dr. Zlata Stankovic-Ramirez. Students call me Dr. Z. I am actually an assistant professor of human development and family studies at Texas Women's University. And I am really fascinated by how children develop, how they learn, how they play, and how we show up for them to help assist and guide them in the world.
and I'm Dr. Josh Thompson, professor of early childhood education at East Texas A&M University. I am and always will be my own kids' kindergarten teacher. All four of our kids were in my Montessori 3 to 6
Wow.
program. And then now, guess what? They got babies. We now have 13 grandchildren. So
13.
I am Billy to 13.
Aw, that's great. I'm just gonna read a little bit from the opening paragraph of this article that you all put together, and then I'm gonna turn you loose. So you wrote traditional child development models often rely on discrete stages characterized by rigid boundaries and linear progression. However, recent scholarship suggests this approach lacks complexity for fully explaining child development. Developmental experiences are likely fluid and include periods of rapid growth or waves, interwoven with periods of consolidation. A preliminary review of early childhood education journals revealed a lack of existing research addressing these waves or developmental cascades. I love the imagery that comes from the language change. I'm a huge fan of changing how we think and what we do by changing the way we talk about it. So this is exciting.
Excellent. Well, I'll get us kicked off and started. So as a teacher, director, mentor, and now a professor, I've always been fascinated by how children learn, grow, and develop. I really got my love for working with young children when I was 16 years old and have happily stayed in the field for years and years to come. But I always wanted to know the why.
Yeah.
Why do children do certain things? Why do they get some things wrong? Why are some children able to adapt to change and others aren't? And so, in my deep work with Dr. Josh Thompson, we've written 5 articles together. Him and I really started looking at developmentally appropriate practice, right? We wanted to see this change. There are 4 developmentally appropriate practices that have come out about every 10 years. And we were fascinated by in the first one, it was kind of short and small. For those of you that remember the first original adapt, it was very skinny with
Mm-hmm.
few things. And then the second one came out and added more. And the third one, when it came out, they took away the whole idea of culture and the child's context, and that was a
Yeah.
big deal. So Dr. Josh Thompson and I, we were in this deep dive during the pandemic, and we actually got to hear the people who developed, who gathered the data from our field, from the early childhood field, and we actually got to hear them say that was a mistake. We needed to include culture. We needed to
Mm-hmm.
include the context that the child is in. And it was this one small part, the two of us were off and running, and we're going to talk about developmentally appropriate practice and how it's sort of evolved and changed and morphed, and how now in this 4th edition, for those of you that will be able to see us, this blue
Mm-hmm.
one, where they use a lot of the experiences from the field really illustrated with real stories. So that was our goal. We were going to talk
Mm-hmm.
about this. And then there was this small part in on page 10, and that's not in this book, but in the Code of Conduct, that said development and learning occur at a varying rates from child to child and at uneven rates across different areas for each child, right? So children demonstrate abilities and skills that are fluid. And I love that idea. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
big Bunsen burner. nerd,
Yes.
my
Yeah.
theoretical perspective.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, yes, fluid. And they said because children are developing the ability to direct their attention, a distraction in the environment may result in a child successfully completing a puzzle one day. But hey, guess what? Not the next. You ask them to do
Hmm.
the same puzzles and they can't. So why does this happen, right? And it goes on to say, which I thought this is sort of where we got all these people really excited about it, that some regression is observed skills. It's new developments that are fully achieved. But for all these reasons, the notion of stages of development has limited utility. And when
Hmm.
I heard that, I thought, oh my God, I'm an early child education professor. I teach, for 10 years. Like, I'm going to say that ages and stages don't work. Jean Piaget, like, what
Yeah.
are you doing here? So it was really one of those moments for me where I'm like, wait a minute, are you okay? Are you comfortable saying this? But it said a more helpful concept, maybe to think of waves of development
Uh-huh.
that allow for us to overlap without rigid boundaries. So Dr. Josh Thompson and I, we started saying this out loud, and people, the light bulb went off. They're like, yes, talk to us about regression. One of the examples I love to use is a child that learns to walk. They're standing up, they're walking, and they're like, I've mastered it, I'm good. And then we, as educators, directors, go in and we're like, I need to observe you for my teaching strategies goal that you're walking. Today's the day I have to have my observation. Come on, walk, walk. And
Uh-huh.
your director walks in and they go, this child can't walk. And you're like, no, I swear they can. She took 4 steps yesterday. They're like, forget it, right? And so why is this happening? The child, is the child regressing? Well, no, the child has no interest to perform for you. They've mastered
Hmm.
it. And they actually figure out that they can crawl and get faster to places by crawling. And so it's not really a regression. So then when we said this, after our sessions, wherever we went, Texas AYC and AYC, people started coming up to us. They're like, talk to me about waves. Talk to me about waves. And we were like, okay, sure, talk to me about this overlapping. And then I pose a question to my class that students love, which is it developmental delay or is it trauma? So
Uh,
that's the other layer of it, right? Like, are children regressing because of trauma or because there's a developmental delay? When do we involve ECI? So like it sort of morphed into this. And then when I was moving back to Texas, I had a year appointment at UTD and worked with a phenomenal, super intelligent mentor, Dr. Margaret Owen. And
Unpack that. It is the University of Texas at Dallas.
that's right. University of Texas at Dallas, yes. Dr. Margaret Owen. And she said, oh, yeah, we've been talking about this in developmental psychology. We've been talking about waves and cycles. There's 10 years of work that we've done on this. And so she really turned Dr. Josh Thompson and I onto some of these theorists and authors to look at and read more deeply, Rackison and Oakes. And so we really started to develop it. And then Dr. Josh Thompson said, we need more people. Let's invite some of our thinkers and friends. Let's get together and really unpack this so that we can read developmental psychology findings and results and works and these ideas about development and waves and cycles. And the word cascades came to us, the developmental cascades
uh-huh.
within that research. And he said, we need people to unpack this with. So we started inviting other people who were interested and who wanted to know more. And we've been working on it ever since. We're in our third year of working
Hmm.
together. So that's sort of how we got here.
Is that your turn now, Josh?
Yeah, I'm up to talk about where all we've been with it. So one of our early explorations, excuse me, was into national conferences at NACE and NAECTE, the
Uh-huh.
early childhood teacher educators. And that was where we recruited Danielle McLellan-Bujnak. And we went to the PLI, the last of the PLI, the
I know.
Professional Learning
Yeah.
Institute in New Orleans. And that was where we recruited Mary Harper from the Texas A&M Corpus Christi. So that's this gravitational pull was fascinating to us.
Hmm.
We recognize it that Dr. Zlata and I have a synchronicity, and it's just becomes like, what are y'all doing and how can we be a part of it? And a literal magnet to draw others into what Dr. Z named CoLab, the
Uh-huh.
Developmental Cascades Collaboration Laboratory, and it's been productive. So in this 2.5 years from 2023 to present, um, we've participated in 25 different settings,
Uh-huh.
um, 9 of them state level around Texas, and 5 of them regional, such as um, SECA, the
Mhm.
Southern Early Childhood Association, 9 different national conferences, and 2 international conferences. We went to World Forum in Vancouver and
Oh.
participated in that presentation and met phenomenal contacts. Did not recruit anybody else to our team from that contact, but boy, did we talk with people and listen to international voices about ways to look at children. And then the other international is from our colleague uh, Daniela Urebe Montserrat from Tecnológico de Monterrey. And she has taken our work and proposed it and been accepted in a conference in Nuevo León, Mexico. So it's very exciting to watch this breadth of dimensions of
Mhm.
this work. 10 of these sessions has been academic.
Uh-huh.
15 of them are more practitioner based and talking to people, and we've recognized we are talking to people at practitioner, but no, we are studying them, and
Mm.
we are carefully navigating how this conversation creates a shift in the image of the child,
Mhm.
ability to reckon. And it's not like we're telling people something new, but it's like we're giving them a language and a visual to better understand the experiences they're actually having.
Mhm.
It was our colleague, Dr. Karen Walker from East Texas A&M, who guided us into a literature review of education journals. And yep, we found zero,
Oh.
no mention of developmental cascades in any of our known education and teacher preparation and early childhood and child development. It is over there situated soundly in developmental psychology,
Mhm.
10, 15 years. Maston wrote about it in 2006. There's some early references to the phrase in the 80s and 90s, but not a robust development of the theory of it until
Mhm.
uh, Ann Maston, mid, what, 2006 or so. Dr.
Yeah,
Z?
yeah, and so we did this deep dive and we were each sort of tasked with a piece of it to look at it, right? So our questions became, okay, how do you develop the image of the child? And then how can we help you change that image of the child?
Mhm.
We all collectively agreed as a collab group, as a collaborative, that we see children in multi-dimensional ways. That, working in one domain can help you accomplish something in another
Yeah.
domain. That's the whole idea of the developmental cascades of, all children might start here, but the water's falling, but then there's that intricate rock here that, oh, this child moved. And so that's where that question comes in. Is it regression or is it developmental delay, right? What's happened here? And then it sort of moves and, oh, here's an intervention. Like this child got that intervention that they needed. They might have been needing some speech
Mhm.
evaluations, and a speech therapist evaluated them and got them the help that they need, right? And so we look at these children, they all end up in the pool. And so the idea is like, okay, how can we, as early child care educators, really see the child holistically, right? In its full glory,
Mhm.
really meet them at where they are. Because we always say things on our websites as directors, as teachers, we'll meet your child
Yeah.
wherever they are. What does that really mean? So we really unpack that in the lit review of, okay, here's sort of how all of these things work, and all of these things work simultaneously and with each other, and they affect here and here. Oh,
Mhm.
and you go backwards and forwards, and there are these constraints. We talked about constraints in it, so we really talk through that in the lit review, and we were able to sort of bring that developmental psychology piece that they've been working on into our early childhood education moment. And to say, let's think about the image of the child. Let's think about how children develop. Let's think about children in a multi-dimensional way. Let's think about regression? Are they
Mhm.
even regressing? And so it was our first really look at figuring out what we know and bringing it to early childhood. And so now our next steps are going to be to do some more research, get some IRBs approved and get some research done on how do we help teachers change their image of the child?
Mhm.
How do we help teachers see the child truly holistically? And more importantly, how do we help teachers truly know how to observe children? Dr. Josh Thompson and I played with this idea in another article that we wrote. We looked at this idea of slicing apart. Sometimes when I send teacher students out to the world and I say, go observe a child. And they're like, I don't even know what to look at. How they're running, how they're talking, how they're
Mhm.
socially interacting. What am I looking at? And so we had this idea of slicing and dicing it and then putting it back together, right? Like, okay, well, just focus on, their language and then focus on this piece. And so we've been fascinated with this before. So it really fit nicely into our developmental cascades work because to truly be able to understand the child where they are and meet them where they are, you have to take into consideration all of the data that you are looking at right now, but also the data that's happened way before they ever got to you, right?
Mhm.
And so we're developing more research and asking more questions around the image of the child, asking more questions about developmental cascades, and not being so rigid with the ages and stages that I think hold value. We're not throwing away
Right.
Piaget, we're not throwing away Erickson. We're saying they value, they matter, but really trying to see the child in a more holistic way and incorporating those theories and ideas into a wider scope, a bigger lens.
Mhm.
And so we've done a number of pilot surveys of these participants at our different presentations, pre and post. Oh, and we have presented the identical sessions in English and then also in Spanish here in Texas. And we have gathered that data as a pilot, and it's interesting, and it is again very affirming that
Mhm.
people are saying, you're not telling me something new, but you're giving me new language around
Yeah.
this. So we are parsing that particular pilot study out to manage data from our presentations that we have upcoming. We will be at NACE in November of 2020,
Mhm.
and we have proposals out for a research conference for the Southwest Education Research Association in New Orleans in February, and then for the South by Southwest EDU conference in Austin in March. We're out
Mhm.
a proposal. We'll hear back yay or nay on that. But so we're proceeding to get out into different venues to listen to people's assessment of what they know about the image of the child, and
Mhm.
then listen to our little 90-minute session with real water and rocks and Play-Doh that they make.
We let them play. Everything
Uh-huh.
learns well
Very
through play.
interactive.
Love it.
And then a post to say, so how does developmental cascades fit into your schema and your expanding view of the child? So that's for the presentation groups. Well, we're also college professors, and we're looking at ways that we can shift the needle over a semester,
Mhm.
but also programmatically, like from when they enter a child development or teacher preparation program, and then over a couple of semesters, what's the outcome afterwards? So we're looking at those different levers of time and shift in knowledge, shift in experience. Now, another piece of it is just examining this collab, this 7 members that each showed up here. We didn't go through the list. So Dr. Marta Macarasiera is a social worker, professor at Texas Women's University. Dr. Zlata's child development at Texas Women's University. Dr. Josh Thompson at East Texas in teacher education, early childhood education. Catalina Mercier, the experience with a Montessori director. Um, Dr. Mary Harper at the University of Texas A&M in Corpus Christi, and she is early childhood in her position and leadership in that program, but genuinely, she is an education policy nerd. She's an expert on how systems work, totally
Mhm.
different than my experience
Yeah.
with classrooms. And that's the same kind of background that Daniela Orebi Montserrat has from Monterrey, from
And
Technical,
Dr. Danielle Bujnak.
and then Danielle McLellan-Bujnak from North Orange County Community College in California, is a nanny and is a
Oh,
trainer of
interesting.
nannies and is scoping the field for her own doctoral work and
Uh-huh.
will enter the doctorate program sometime soon. So that breadth of the people that have congealed, have coalesced, have gathered is a phenomenon. So we're creating the format for us to gather our own autoethnographies and listen to our own stories, looking for levers of change within our own track of when did you become woke to the child and wake up and see, oh my goodness, these children are doing things. And was it a personal and family of origin story, or was it a traumatic event, or was it a nurturing, caring event that triggered that, or was it a classroom and you
Uh-huh.
opened it? Oh, let me do that one. I'm going to do that one.
Or was it all of the above because we're
Yeah.
multidimensional beings?
Yeah.
This is my child psych text
Oh,
from
wow.
1977. Let me show you this piece. The price of this textbook was $13.25.
Oh my gosh, of a
But
textbook.
when I discovered Piaget describing the the pre-operational child that
Hmm.
was the center of my lifetime work and with young children, it was like mind blowing to say,
Yeah.
oh, this is why children are different and categorically different. And, so those different aha moments come to us. So our intent is to then take those different stories of our own autoethnographies, identify our positionalities, racial, gender, language, experience, and training, and then look at the intersectionality of how do these things overlap and impart.
Hmm.
Currently, we can't go forward because there's 7 of us, and we can't agree on whether we want to use unconscious influence or subconscious influence.
When
So
you get when you get PhDs or soon to be PhDs in a room, there's going to be some questions about semantics, right?
oh,
But
it's fun. We're having a
It sounds
blast.
amazing.
and and it's just all of us really coming at it to really understand children better. At the root of it, we want to understand children better. We want to be able to help children better and serve children and families in a more intentional way. And I
Mhm.
think that's where all of us have share that and have that in common. I remember learning about theorists, and the light bulb went off when I heard about Bronfenbrenner. And I was like, oh, this makes sense to me. This is right. Yes, I loved Piaget. Yes, I liked Vygotsky. Yes, I enjoyed, the works of even Lillian Katz, right?
Mhm.
When I read Lillian Katz, I was like, oh, this,
Okay.
Mhm.
right? But Bronfenbrenner really spoke to me, and is still, as I learn more theorists, like I tend to stay in that space. And I think, how do we all come about our own theoretical perspective? And is it tied to our childhood? Is it tied to how we were nurtured and how we show up and nurture children?
Mhm.
Obviously as professionals, but also as parents.
Sure.
And so we really are working hard academically to be able to really have data to show that children are not easily explainable. They're
Right.
multidimensional and they're multifaceted, and we need to really observe and
Mhm.
observe and do so much more before we interfere. I think we interrupt children often.
Yeah.
I think we put our own biases and our own experiences onto children often. My daughter's 3 today, and someone asked me, she potty trained. And I said no. And that was it. I was like, because that's the expectation, right?
Yes.
Whose expectation is it, you know? So, I'm like, no, well, she'll get there, and
Yep.
that was it. The end of that, right? So, but people have these ideas of, oh, you're one, you should be walking. Well, my
Hmm.
son didn't walk till he was 18 months. You're
Hmm.
3 for my daughter. You should be potty trained. She probably won't be till she's maybe 3.5 or 4. But they're not looking at the whole picture of what can they do and why is this happening, right? They're just sort of assuming it's
Right.
like a checklist, boxes of what children should be doing. And man, aren't we so lucky that children don't fit into boxes, right?
Yeah.
And that checkbox mentality is kind of what got us into this mess in education general, which says, hey, if you
100%.
strive, then these are the kinds of things that we will test them on, and we
Yep.
will prove them and fire teachers if they haven't got
Yes.
kids to that place. So that mechanistic factory model is supported by
The
old
system we created,
Linear theory.
linear theories.
the
Yeah.
Yeah.
systems we
And we're
created, yeah.
thinking, we're hoping, we're believing that
Yeah.
this work of reimagining can actually benefit
Yeah.
the field in
So
large form.
can I jump in with a question?
I
Oh
don't
my gosh,
know.
please.
Because I'm
Zlata,
curious.
we
I mean,
have a wreck, a
I was
host.
just enjoying listening. But I'm curious because you say you've been talking about this with academic audiences and with practitioners. Do you see disequilibrium? Do you get resistance as you're trying to share this different way of thinking and talking about development?
Yeah, we've only had it once at an
Okay.
AP conference early on. We got a little bit of pushback about the idea of, well, we need interventionists because if you say all
Ah,
children develop at their own level,
yeah.
we need children to walk by the time they're 18 months. Right. And
Yeah.
so we do believe that, obviously the American Pediatric Association said that children need to move by 18 months, or yes, we should get people to come and intervene and help them get that important skill.
Hmm.
But remember, the APA just took away crawling because
Yeah.
only 60% of kids crawled and 40 did not. So they had to take it away. And I was so grateful because Dr. Josh Thompson will attest to this. When my son wasn't crawling, I was super concerned. I even came to him. I said, "Oh my God, he's not crawling." He's like, "Well, is he rolling?" He is. Is he moving, army crawling? He is. Can he get to
Yeah.
the dance? He's like, he's
Yeah.
fine. Now,
That's so
so I
interesting
so I
because
hope that we've got that pushback because the interventionists, like the PTOTs, interventionists,
yeah.
like, no, we need checklists. And absolutely, we're not saying laissez-faire, throw everything out, throw
Yeah.
J out and throw what PTs and OTs and interventionists know. We're just saying that look at the child holistically, get the data you need, and interfere and intervene only when it's absolutely a necessity to help this
Hmm.
child develop and grow and learn and have a better quality of life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And do it for the right reason. Sometimes we're also quick to jump on and say, "Oh yeah, they have a delay," or, "Oh, and we haven't really looked at the whole picture." A child who's been in a traumatic situation will stop talking
Hmm.
sometimes, right? And it's not that they can't, it's that they are processing their trauma and maybe talking wasn't safe.
Right.
And so I think a lot of times we because we're so eager as adults and as professionals to help, we want to hop in and help, but we're not really getting the whole picture and understanding the why. Why is this
Right.
child here? And then giving the appropriate type of help. One of the things that Dr. Marta Mercado for ETW and myself that we suggested was we were going to go to a Head Start and we wanted to develop a program that's going to help in real time, have all of the data for PTs, OTs, speech, educators, and it was all going to be on this one beautiful dashboard. We imagined it where you imagine some highly technical people being able to build it out for us with a bigger NIH grant, right?
Uh-huh.
But that they're going to be able to talk in real time because one of the problems I saw as a special service specialist when I worked for Head Start was that we would only have one meeting like per semester or per year about a child.
Hmm.
And so much happens in between. And I'm doing my own thing and you're doing your own thing. But we are interconnected because we're all on this child's team. So wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to see, oh yes, she's working with him on speech. I can actually use some of the things she's doing and work
Yeah.
with him on his OT or in play therapy.
Hmm.
To see it in real time, real data that's up to date, that talks to each other, and
Hmm.
that translates and gives us a holistic view of the child. So that's one of those exciting things that's like a dream that I hope we can actually realize. because I think it would be helpful for professionals who are on the child's team to talk to each other. The
Sure.
biggest frustration I've ever had as a director is that my teachers and my parents would communicate with my teachers about speech therapists, OTs and PTs, what they would give them to go do at home. They would say,
Hmm.
okay, at home that you need to practice these skills to help us. And they would never think that they need to tell us at school. So I had to make that bridge and I had to say, hey, we need that so that we can all be a team and we
Hmm.
can work on those things at school and they can work on them at home. And we all should be on the same page. I had a child who told me one time, oh, yes, I'm going to my dad's house this weekend. What? You know? Oh, yeah, I'm living in two homes right now. Oh, okay. Wouldn't that be wonderful to have
To
known?
know,
And that you
yes.
shared it with the teachers and us so that when we see some behaviors in this child that are unusual, we're not thinking, hey, is this a concern? But we're like, oh, this is a normal reaction to now living in two homes. These two parents got back together after 6 months and she was back in one home. But in that transition phase, we were seeing behaviors like biting, regressing. She was 4, but she's biting.
Hmm.
She's throwing tantrums, things that we hadn't seen in like a year and a half. So I think that sometimes life is busy and parents and directors and teachers, interventionists don't think that to share. But if
Yeah.
the more of a holistic picture we all have, the better we serve the child.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's interesting to me too to think about this as I'm listening to you, as I was listening to you talking about how that linear model doesn't allow for going backwards unless it's really pathologized, right? And so I've been thinking and hearing lately about a spiral, but I think developmental cascade feels so much gentler to me, and more whole picture, not just moving up or moving down or moving back or moving forward. um I think it's just really interesting way to think about just what you were saying before, stuff I've been thinking and now there's language, right, to attach to it.
And visuals. There's a
Yeah.
beautiful visual in Oak's unfolding of it in her 2020 book, Oaks and Rackeson. And she has that visual and that description of the water and the cascade, the sense of motion. One of the pieces that we've been threading out is discussing the parts of the process, like
Mhm.
which part is the child and which part is the learning and which part is the environment,
Mhm.
and especially to dwell on the the cause, the purpose, the force. What causes water to flow downstream? It is gravity. It is a elemental force in nature. So what is it that motivates the child? What
Mhm.
is it that moves the child to move through these obstacles to get to an unknown, or he doesn't have the lesson plan. He doesn't have the
Mhm.
teaks inscribed on his tattoo, but the skills, essential skills and knowledge.
Uh-huh.
So that makes that learning happen. And of course, that's the age-old question, but here it
Mhm.
is, a different way to examine that same question.
Mhm. Well, I think it sort of forces us to think about our role differently. And we've had this conversation on several episodes. I'm sort of uncomfortable with the word teacher for children in the years before they go to elementary school. But I use it because that's what people understand, right? But we talk about being a developmentalist versus being a teacher. And I think also with the linear way of thinking about this, to be a teacher, I have to identify the deficit and teach to that deficit, right? That's how I know that I'm supporting their learning or whatever. But when we're thinking about whole child development and just what you're talking about, the processes that impact that, whether it's Bronfenbrenner's ideas or just the imagery of floating down the stream, either way, we have to think more broadly and be more curious than just, well, this is what the checklist said we should work on next. And most of the kids hit it, but these three don't. So, I think it's such a more, I don't know, interesting, fair way to think about it.
One other layer is that we began this discussion and we meet monthly and we sometimes have those who are local meet together at the restaurant and we just have a variety of forums for
Uh-huh.
us to digest and discuss the chapters of these major developmental psychology textbooks and when it did come time for us to release our own webpage, developmentalcascades.org, I panicked. I was like, wait a minute, who's us? Who are we? And so with the rest of the team said, Josh, get over it. But they gave me permission, and I wrote to those theorists that we've been copying, Tamis Lamonda from New York University and others, and they said, oh, we've been waiting for you. Go for it. Take
They
this
gave us
theory
full light. Yeah.
and give it
Nice.
legs and make it fleshed out into practice. And so, but one of the pieces of this conversation was mistakenly throwing in the word waves and cycles.
Okay.
Cycles is not in those developmental psych texts. I mean, I need to search it again,
Uh-huh.
but that's a whole other dimension to think of our development in cycles. So many different
Hmm.
forms of cycles are true affecting,
Hmm.
truly affecting development,
Hmm.
such as the time of day,
Yeah.
Right.
such as the times of the week. Children know the first days of the week have a different dynamic than the end days of the week
Yeah.
before a weekend.
Much like adults
Yeah, right.
experience the
I pick it
week.
up from, that's where they get it, is
Yeah.
from those characters around them
Yeah.
that have that sense, or the birthday. I mean,
Yes.
happy birthday and happy anniversaries, and how many different ways to celebrate and think about these cycles.
Mhm.
And we have not yet really unpacked menstruation and its work in the lives of young children, that the people around them are going through a
Mhm.
monthly cycle that has tremendous impact and very little conversation that
Mhm.
I hear. I guess there's other other conversations that
Yeah.
women are having about it without me, but
There's
but
not enough conversations.
not
Not
It's
enough
enough
safe to
conversation.
say.
and
I
Yeah.
would say it's safe
legitimately
to say.
recognizing how
Yeah.
many different ways that children see cycles in their life.
Mhm.
And that's what you mentioned about the spiral coming
Mhm.
back around and coming back to it at a different level and going on to that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the cascades and the flowing of it is just so beautiful to me. I always think of children playing by the stream with the
Mhm.
rocks in nature. And, it just, and I hear the birds, and I think it just evokes all of this
Yeah.
early childhood experiences I had being in
Yep.
nature, how important it is to be in nature, right? But there's something about a babbling brook and a flowing water. And sometimes it's quiet and it looks like it's not doing anything, but it
Mhm.
is. And then sometimes it's loud and wild, but not much is happening.
Mhm.
And so,
Mhm.
so I think that imagery to me really resonated with me. I think developmental cascades, envelops a lot of other ideas, like your spherical idea.
Mhm.
Like my friend who's a Montessorian, Dr. Josh Thompson talked about Catalina, and she said, "Oh yeah, Montessori fits into this." And then we talked to Marta, and she said, "Oh yeah, social work fits into this." And I'm like, "Yeah, child development fits into this."
Uh-huh.
So we all sort of figure out how we fit into this, and why do we fit into it? Because it's this simple yet beautiful idea of looking at the child holistically,
Uh-huh.
truly, and really seeing what's going on with them and observing and gathering data to be able to um, maybe assist or maybe not assist, maybe just let it happen too. That's another idea that
Mhm.
Dr. Josh Thompson and I talk about is when to intervene and when not to,
Yeah.
and when to step in and when not to. So when we do the I guess the demonstration with practitioners and researchers, we bring out Danielle Bujnak and I came up with this when we were going to NACE in 2024, and we have a little tray, and we have the water, and we have rocks, and they pour the water, and then the Play-Doh is the interventions, and
Mm.
oh, and then we have them think through what are the interventions, and Do you have too many? Do you not have enough? So we really try to give visuals and hands-on ways for to conceptualize theory.
Mhm.
And that can be a very difficult pill to swallow for students who are brand new to us and are coming to us to learn about development. But I have noticed, even with my undergraduate freshmen, they're really on board just as much as my juniors and seniors of thinking about how do I view children? Why do I view children that way? I got off of a meeting right before we got together where a student said to me, she's in practicum, I'm thinking about putting a lesson plan together for pre-Kers and I'm going to do worksheets. And I said, oh, wait. Wait.
Please,
No,
please.
no, right. And so we talked through it. And so, it was a teaching moment for me to guide her and say, we don't do worksheets with young children. We do hands-on activities, and here's why, and here's how. So we had this super profound conversation. She's like, oh, I'm so glad you said something because I was going to do this, this, and this. And then, and so we really talk through that, thinking through like what's appropriate with young children. How long should they play?
Nick,
Play. You should play your whole life.
I
Yeah.
had that same conversation with a teacher who's presenting a lesson on tens tomorrow, and she had a very engaging lesson with lots of activities to manipulate and stuff. But the concluding activity was to write. And so I asked, how do these 5-year-olds write? And she said, well, not very well. So I might trace for them and said, yeah.
Ah.
And you have to connect those dots. I am going to flip the standard on this little conversation because
Oh.
Heather Bernt-Santy always reads a quote as she begins. We're not close to finishing because we have so much to talk about. But I have copied out a few key verses
Perfect.
from Heather Bernt-Santy's new book called Using Schema Play
What?
for Free Play, just to fit into this conversation about
All are tricky.
play, about
Okay.
really, because there's so many different threads and strands of resistance,
Mm.
of
Yes.
revolution, of
Yes.
this time of unsettledy in certain areas of our life. It's a
Yes.
wonderful time to rewrite the whole script on education. So let me read you.
Okay.
Heather Bernt-Santy says, the following descriptions of play provide the lens through which play will be viewed and discussed in this book. Stuart Brown asserts, hey, we've got Danielle.
Yep, here she comes.
That play is distinguishable from other activities if it is done for its own sake and not for survival.
Mm.
It's voluntary. It's fun. Kathy Hirsch-Pasek out of Temple University, she 2009 wrote, play as having no extrinsic goals, having a private reality for the player. Finally, Yogman. I don't know Yogman. I don't know what that's from.
That's
Oh,
the
Brazelton
American
and
Academy of Pediatrics.
So they involves
Brazelton and Yogman, yeah.
involves active engagement and results in joyful discovery. Thank you for leading us in that.
You're
Yes.
tricky.
We in our developmental cascades work, we really believe that children who play and who we observe in their play are going to give us all the clues we need and how we are to support them, right? I think that children's behavior is sometimes misconstrued
Yeah.
by adults, and it's our job to figure out why. And the way that we figure out the why is to really look at all the layers, look at all the dimensions, look at all the data that we have or that we need to gather, and really develop the most holistic picture that we can. So that's the goal. So Danielle, do you want to add anything? Our friend Danielle has joined us. I'm so excited. We've been
Hi,
chatting.
Danielle.
Hello,
Yes,
nice to
Bring your
join you all.
introduction first.
Pardon?
Oh, yes, you got to do your
Bring your
introduction.
introduction first.
Yes, so my name is Danielle McLellan-Bujnak, or Professor Mac, and I'm a community college professor, and I teach dual enrolled high school students as well, which is really exciting. Teaching child development to people who are still within the arc
Yes.
of child development is a really fascinating and exciting project. And I'm a longtime professional development instructor for home-based care educators, nannies, and newborn care specialists, and providing evidence-based professional development that's contextualized for the home-based setting. And that was the topic of my master's thesis research. I did an action research project with nannies and NCS documenting their professionalism, which was very exciting. Ended up being accepted to a lot of conferences, regional, national, international publication. I feel really proud to be advocating for inclusion of a sector of early childhood workforce that's even more overlooked and marginalized in a marginalized workforce.
Yeah, that's very interesting to bring that in for sure.
So, and then my connection with Developmental Cascades is one of the key concepts I developed in the course that I taught for that project. I called Unfolding Development. And it was an expression of the multidimensionality of child development and the natural flow and, the idea of limiting factors or constraints, all these things were all present in the work that I was doing in my professional development course. And so I was presenting that at the National Association for Early Childhood Teacher Educators Conference and ran into Dr. T, who was there, and Dr. Z was there virtually. And that was how we got to know each other and realized that there was a tremendous confluence in the research that we were already doing. And I was thrilled to join CoLab.
Yeah.
Danielle is our bright shining star with the image of the child. We have been really working on developing that idea and really asking those deep questions of how do you come about knowing about yourself as a child and knowing about nurture and care and play and all those pieces. So Danielle and Mary and I are going to be working on developing that presentation even further for our NACCE conference in November. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure if Zlata mentioned or not, she and I presented at NACCE in Anaheim last fall, and it was very exciting to have a featured presentation talking about developmental cascades, and we had a hands-on project with Play-Doh and water, and it was a great thing, and it was a big success. NACCE actually asked us to film that for their learning lab.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Downloadable professional development courses that they offer. So that was a really amazing honor that they considered this content about developmental cascades to be a really integral part of developmentally appropriate practice and the type of PD that NACCE wants to perpetuate and spread. And now we're presenting there again in Orlando this fall.
Yeah. Were you trying to come in, Josh? You had your...
I was going to remind her to talk about the pre-recorded video.
Oh,
yes. So when NACCE's selling it, we don't get it. We don't get any money from it, but we get the honor.
Yeah.
And it's a great honor because honestly, to have NACCE really accept our work really validates for us what our time and our effort into developing the lit review and the projects and the IRBs and all the things that we have to do. So it was really wonderful that they saw this as a valuable lens in looking at young children and their development. So we're thrilled to take it further. And more hands-on and exciting. So please join us. If you're at NACCE, come see us on Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
They did say one thing she said is when they were choosing which 9 presentations out of all of the presentations in the whole whatever 4-day conference, they picked the 9 that they thought had the best content and were the most popular. So that was a really great validation too, that not only did NACCE think what we were teaching and presenting was valuable, but the people who participated gave us apparently really high reviews. They were really interested. And of course, because they were playing with Play-Doh, they got
to play. That's really why. They got to play with Play-Doh. They're like, yes, we'll rate them high because I actually got to play and learn. And that does bring me to this point of why what you wrote in your book that Dr. Josh Thompson just shared a few quotes is so integral, is to really defend play and to defend children's ability to learn with hands-on experiences and to learn through play. Like I said, we interrupt children a lot. We want to direct their play, but we really need to step back and let them be the leaders of play. And we need to just show up to assist or not show up to assist. Observe. I really have done a much different job parenting my second child than my first. With my first child, I wanted to be in the play with him and do things with him and direct and I direct and we take turns. But with my daughter, I really have let her, when she's playing by herself and she's engaging and doing all the things, I just let her be. And then when she invites me to play, she'll say, "Mama, you want to play?" Then I become a part of it. And even in those moments, she leads and I follow. So I've really even changed how I parent. And I think a part of it is the developmental cascades work and the deep research I've been doing. And also like trusting my child to know what's best in their time when they're wanting to engage with the environment and the world around them, right?
I had a 5-year-old come over to spend the day with us, and I had some work to do, so I came up into this office, and he shows up, and so I kind of set him up in a playroom next door, and no, that wasn't close enough. So It was that green fish tent that we saw this weekend at National Day of Play. So I set it up right on the landing of and then put some blocks in there and some characters in there. And he said, 45 minutes later, he comes up, "Hey, did you forget about me?" And I
Did you
said,
forget about me?
"Did you forget about me?" Just that absorption. So yes,
Uh-huh.
there's plenty of advocacy for play to learn.
Hmm.
But what I just read, play is its own
Yeah.
reward.
Yeah.
Play is its own power. Again, coming back to that motivation, what causes that water to move down the cascade into the pool? It is a force of nature that we don't know the kin.
Hmm.
Yeah, that internal motivation is really, that was one of the key ideas I had in my unfolding development, was recognizing the intrinsic motivation of the child and supporting that, which is why we don't say good job and we don't do rewards. We
Hmm.
want to honor that internal expression, and the idea that gravity in the metaphor of developmental cascades is recognizing that impetus, and that,
Yeah.
like, the thing I would always tell my professional development students, and now I tell my academic students, whatever, if you provide an enriched environment for an infant or a child, they will express the learning that their brain and body are uniquely ready to do today.
Hmm.
So every time I present them with a specific activity, I am usurping that and
Yeah.
saying, I know what you can do today. And I have no way of knowing what they can do today. What I can do is, like Zlata said, you observe, you give them an enriched environment with many age appropriate opportunities, and you watch what they do. And like Dr. Montessori says, you follow the child,
Uh-huh.
and they will show you what they're working on. And then you can provide additional activities and build and scaffold and do all of those things.
Hmm.
But it's got to start with respecting that gravity pulling the water down the mountainside, that
Yeah.
internal motivation of the child.
One
Yeah.
experience from many years in my 3 to 6 year old Montessori classroom was people would say, "Josh, you're so patient." And there's a whole conversation that Heather's had with
Yeah.
Carol and others about patient as
Yeah.
virtue, or is it like a forbearance? Anyway,
Yeah.
I just said,
Patience implies there's something unpleasant to be
uh,
endured, right?
I assign that paper
but
to all
the
of my
other piece
students,
of that
patience
that
versus
I wanted to
understanding.
talk
Yes,
about,
Weber's
the
article.
piece that I wanted to talk about with these parents was, I'm in awe.
Uh-huh.
I am just hanging out watching. I am just ready to see what's next. Because even though I'm trained, even though I've got some degree, even though I've got some observation checklist that I'm filling out, but no, I am in awe and
Mhm.
watching.
Yeah.
Well, and to that, one of my favorite moments of teaching ever was with a 3-year-old who asked me, "Where does a tree come from? Does it come from a seed?" And I really believe in Malaguzzi and the 100 languages of children and children learning through hands-on experiences and play, because it's my first training and what I
Uh-huh.
really got myself really involved with. And I just thought, oh my gosh, we could take this in so many ways. Where do trees come from? Let's find out. And the science questions, 3-year-old never stopped coming the
Yeah.
entire year. So it was just him asking that one simple question that took us on this path and road, and about rocks and about insects and about all the things, and he really just developed this love for science and inquiry. And so, it is our job to really help them learn what they want to learn. They're all scientists. The scientific method, the
Yes.
process of it, you see it in every child. So we're there to support and nurture that and really, just see how high they can soar. Every child I've interacted with has taught me something different, and I am accumulation of all those lessons.
Yeah. Oh, that's a beautiful way to think about it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, this has been really great, but I have to eat dinner. I could just keep listening. And I feel so bad, Danielle. You just got in here at the
I know, I'm
end.
sorry that we had a little traffic problem. I live in LA, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
I have to
Well,
get
we
down here
could,
to teach. Usually it's fine, and today it was not,
yeah, we'll definitely have
unfortunately.
to all come back again together for another conversation because
Sure,
We would
yeah.
love
definitely,
to. We would love that
yeah,
opportunity. Thank
yeah,
you,
I
Heather,
would
so
love that.
much. It's
Yeah.
been an absolute honor and pleasure, and we can't wait to talk to you again when we find out no more, but also want to know more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, absolutely plan to come back. We'll get something set up
Cool.
before long. And thank you so much for giving me your time today. And thanks to everybody who's listening. And come back again next week for another episode of That Early Childhood Nerd.